Well, we're close enough, 12:59, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order and, are we ready yet? Okay, let the roll call show that all commissioners are present and staff that would want to be here, I guess is. We have George for guests. And for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Have approval of the agenda, or all favor the ayes.
Aye.
All right, carries. Public comment. Any outside public here?
I have not received nothing.
To the consent agenda. Anybody wish to question any of the consent agenda? Add or take away anything?
Oh, I apologize. Can we take a step back? You guys went, you guys went a little faster than I expected. We do have an addition to the agenda that staff is requesting. So I guess if we could go back and read, I guess I don't know the proper way to do that. If I could have a commissioner make a motion to amend the agenda and add in as 6G.
Oh, we made a motion.
I can make that motion.
Get the manager back in and then.
That's regarding that winder.
The cable winder purchase.
Yeah, okay, so amended motion. Second,
Yeah, second. Yeah.
all approve, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hold, carried. Okay, now let's go back to the consent agenda. Anybody wish to add or take anything away?
No. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion,
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hold, that carries. Okay, we have the reports. Did everybody read the reports? Are there any questions or? Yeah, if you guys here, you know, the time to nail them. They all look good to me,
Yeah.
I got your compliments on your work all of you. Okay, regular agenda, upcoming bondies. We have George, over from here from Northland. We have floor, George.
All right. Good afternoon. George Eilertson from Northland Securities. And welcome to the commission, I guess, the two new members. So who's Northland Securities? We're a public finance firm that helps not only the city, but also the Princeton Public Utilities when they have the need to do a street project or do water tower reconditioning projects. So when you have projects that need outside money or issue debt or bonds, that's where we come. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But I'm here today. I've got a few different items on your agenda, and I can certainly take time to walk through those and then just address any questions you might have. So the first item is North Tower water reconditioning. And I put together a one-page memo that just kind of highlights that financing. It's a combination financing where, traditionally the city would issue their own general obligation debt, and the Princeton Public Utilities may consider the issuance of their own standalone debt. In this case, Minnesota statutes allow cities to issue general obligation bonds for water projects. And so it's kind of unique here. We've got the chair is the mayor. So this is good. I've already had this presentation with the city where so we've got the city looking at financing bonds for a fire truck, and then the utility looking at the North Water Tower reconditioning. And both projects are under $1 million separately. And so we're looking at combining these into one general obligation bond. They would be issued for separate purposes, but the city would issue one common financing for the fire truck as well as for the water tower. And then certainly each purpose would have its own payment schedule. And it's not the first time the or the city rather has issued bonds on behalf of the utility. As just a step back, if we were talking about electric projects for the utility, the city doesn't have the authority to do general obligation debt for that. And so this is unique to water. And so it's just, we've got two projects that have a similar timeline. And so there's some benefit to combining those. The combined bond is large enough to go out and pursue the assignment of the city's bond rating. And what that does is it helps to drive down the interest rates on the financing. So both purposes are looking at 10-year financing. So you've already, and I think it was last meeting, you awarded the reconditioning project. I believe it's going to be May, June, somewhere in there that the project will take place. But, and this timeline is the issuance of debt in the month of July. It would be where you would, at your June 25th meeting, each political body has to approve the sale of the bonds. You have a resolution that concurs with the city council's action of issuing the debt. So in June, if we stay on this schedule, it would be the June 25th meeting. You would pass a resolution or consider a resolution awarding the sale, concurrent upon the city council taking the step. And then July 10th, the city council would award it at that time. So the benefits of combining are, one, you get the benefit of the city's AA bond rating, which is very strong. And that, like I say, drives down the interest rate. Looking at a combined issuance, the approximate interest cost savings between the two is approximately $40,000 to, to have that lower interest rate. And then secondly, when you issue one combined bond versus two separate, there's some, we can avoid some duplication of cost of issuing debt. It's good to pay the attorneys one time versus two times. So there's about $20,000 of savings there. So for those reasons, board, it's something where we recommend to you and we recommend it to the city council of pursuing this common financing. It makes sense in this case because you've got, two projects that are, I don't want to say small projects because the fire truck is 880 and it could stand on its own. But when you have projects less than $1 million, the costs of issuance become a higher percentage in terms of the overall project cost. So for those reasons, board, it's really saving on interest costs, saving on cost of issuance and interest cost is the reason why we recommend that. And I can address any questions, Chair, you or the board members have. So I'm sorry, today you're not issuing debt, nor you're not, it's a sale in June, July with that timeline. So
those terms need to match up when you're doing this, when we're doing this with the city, the 10-year term, does that have to match or would that not have to match?
That's a really good question. And the answer is no. You could have, coincidentally, they both wanted a 10-year financing structure. So I've met with Keith and I've met with Michelle. We've talked about, we've looked at different lengths of financing, 8, 10, 12, 15 years, and just kind of both looked actually independently and picked 10 years. They could be separate lengths and do one financing together.
And then we're asking on our bond the exact proposal price from the contractor, correct?
No, it's the contractor price plus the design and engineering fees from KLM.
Okay. Should there be change orders to add cost to it? That'd have to be paid for separately out of our.
Yeah, I guess that would be right, George. I mean, you can't go back and change them.
Well, we've got plenty of time to get the project size.
Well, and I will say this, timing is interesting because we are planning on starting construction before the bond issue. We can refund ourselves, with the bond proceeds, so that's not a problem. Part of the reason we want to do that is it does help the city because it delays, since they're not buying the fire truck right away, it kind of delays some of the, um, the interest and the other money that they have to set aside. We are gonna have to float that money for a little bit. We have plenty of cash reserve in our CIF.
Which I was discussed.
Yeah.
I think our last meeting.
Yeah, so
Last week.
we can float,
Yeah.
we can float that amount for, for a few months if we need, whatever we need to do until the bond gets issued. What that means is depending upon when they finish, and I guess I don't know that we have a set schedule yet.
We haven't, we've got,
Part of the reason we got such favorable pricing is we let them kind of tell us what works with their schedule. And so we got beneficial pricing for that. If, let's just say, for example, say they do get done in May, well, then we'll know what the numbers are. So we could account for it at that point.
Okay.
If for some reason the project, they decided it's just better for all of us if we do it in September, then there is a little bit, there's a little bit of risk there that any overages we would cover through our CI.
And there's cash for that. Not anticipating like 5% come back.
Exactly.
You never know what the longer is once it's.
My dad, I don't know, likely, but yeah, it isn't good enough for it to be. And I didn't know the attractive part, and I heard this already, so it's a little bit of it, but we're doing it together and taking the advantage for both sides, so the like the interest and upfront fees and stuff. But we can do the payback independently. There'll be no like penalties or nothing like that. Say we should,
Right.
say if we change our mind and decide that we want to up our side of the payment to cut a couple of years off, we can do that with.
Just to address that question, so with a municipal bond, it's a little bit different than, say, going to the local bank and borrowing money. A municipal bond has, the other side of the equation is individuals or community banks or mutual funds buy these for tax exempt purposes. And so about halfway through the term is when you reach that ability to buy down the bonds. So you have to follow like on a 10-year financing it for about first 4 years. The bonds you follow the payment schedule is put together, and then there's not the ability to put extra principal towards it. But once you reach the call date is what it's referred to, then you can start to pay down extra if you desire at that time. So that's pretty standard on municipal debt, where you've got this period that you're locked out, if you will, where so the investor on the other side of the equation knows I've got my investment for at least 4 years, 5 years, or, about halfway through the financing term. And then at that point, it's at your discretion, the one who took out the money. If you want to pay down or refinance, if interest rates are more favorable, then you can do it at that point. So,
Yeah, I don't know if you think about that happening, but it's nice to know we have that option.
sure. No, and that's actually, in regards to Keith's point about, knowing, firming up the project costs before you actually issue the debt, that's kind of a nice scenario too, because then you can, maybe there's a contingency on it, but then if you know you're not going to use it, we can, right size the financing. So,
And I guess the other thing I'd like to share is, because Nick, you asked about the 10-year term, or you asked about the terms of it. The reason staff pursued a 10-year term on it is when looking at a reconditioning project, we're looking at the coatings on the water tower. They typically have about a 25 to 30 year life. We have 3 water towers. So if we do one every 10 years, we're kind of consistently keeping up with the maintenance of our asset. We are looking at potentially, the south water tower, the one down at 169, is slated to go through its own reconditioning project in probably 7 to 8 years. So we'd like to get through as much of this debt and then just replace the north water tower debt with the south water tower debt at that point. That's when, Mr. Chair, your suggestion that we could pay it off a little bit early, say we do it in year 7 or year 8, we have that possibility, knowing that we're going to go out for a bond on the next water tower. And then we just it just keeps us in the cycle of just consistently maintaining, our departments of that.
The big one was just done fairly recently, so that's good for a while, it should be.
I see we got $315,000 in bonds now on our balance sheet. Revenue bonds payable.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Are you looking at the,
Here you can see.
yeah, if you don't mind.
I think that's the treatment plant stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and if I pull up. Let me just show, that's an excellent question. So in our audit, this is the one from last year, we haven't done this year's yet. Here's the water revenue bonds that you're referring to. Here's our payoff, and you can see that that one in particular, our last payment is due in 2027. So we're getting at the very tail end of that bond issuance. And then right now, we don't anticipate any debt beyond 2027, but that's where this comes going. To redo that. And let me just show them you as well. Yeah, this is from our own audit. So this is the water revenue bonds. Principal.
Well, we're gonna talk about that a little later, I think.
And just as a reminder, our audit is on our website under the commission tab, so if you go there, you can always pull it up and take a look at it.
And I think we did kind of touch on the logic of bonding for this project because of the future projects coming up, that this may be the best.
Correct.
We're right in the
Some
Don't short
water
cash.
treatment.
Well, we got a couple of big projects coming.
I'm sorry.
Don't short our cash is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. We still have the Seventh Avenue projects where we have to pay on that one. We have the city's planning on doing a reconstruct on Third next year as well. So just kind of looking forward at what we were seeing for capital expenses. We know we have to bond for something along that line, given the opportunity to do a co-bond with the city. It just made a whole lot of sense now, rather than getting to a point where we might be below our cash reserve. We might be in violation of our cash reserve policies, if we pay for everything out of cash.
Yes, well, thank you for the questions. I don't know if, I don't have any sort of resolution or action for you relative to that bond until it would be the month of June, where it would be awarding the sale of bonds.
Well, I believe we talked about, we could do the reimbursement resolution next month.
That's right. And that was actually, thank you, Keith. That was brought up a little bit earlier where Keith had mentioned we'll actually start the project and use some of your own cash before you get the bond money. That's what a reimbursement resolution is for. And this is very common for projects across the board, where if you have any scenario where like that exists, where you've got project expenses that you have to pay for out of your reserve funds, the IRS wants you to pass this resolution, which says we reserve the right to pay with our own cash and then reimburse ourselves at a later date with tax exempt debt. So that's what that resolution is. The city had already done one on the fire truck last year, anticipating this project. And so again, very common, whether it's one of your electric projects or a city project, a street project for that matter. So that will be next month. But I wanted to just explain it here before that occurs. Perfect. Well, then that looks like it covers my first two items, 1 and 2, general education fund proposal. That is relative to the 10-year financing for the tower reconditioning project. And then going ahead into electric capital improvement plan. Would you want to intro that, Keith? Or?
Yeah, and actually I was planning on going through this in a lot more detail when we get to agenda items E, the generation space feasibility discussion, because these are all kind of playing into each other. We are currently in the second part of phase one of our electric cap plans. I did bring a copy of it just so as you and Tom can see what the commission had approved. This was back in 2021, where we put a plan together to do several different things. One is we currently have a dual voltage distribution system, so we want to get that to a single voltage, which will just help with our ability to manage the system better. Increase the tie line between the plant sub and the north sub, which will allow us to backfeed the town from either direction and then rebuild two substations, the plant sub and the north sub. So it's a three-phase, 10-year, estimated to be about 12, 13 million. That was in 2021. So since then, transformer prices have gone up, all material costs have gone up. But we had worked with DGR Engineering to do a full study of our system, looking at power quality issues, doing fuse studies, all sorts of different things. And that was the plan we came up with. So then the commission approved the plan and then approved us moving forward with phase one, which we started work on early last year. And we're going to finish that up this summer as well. And then we're going to start design work on phase two this year, with an anticipated construction startup probably early next year, then 2026. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. We did kind of, for a little bit there, we did accelerate a few things just because we were trying to get some state grant money, which unfortunately didn't happen. But so far, phase one is actually $1 million under budget. So we're able to use a lot of that money for phase two. Unfortunately, the current estimates for cost for phase two are about an extra $1 million than what we originally anticipated. So at the end of the day, I guess we're kind of breaking even the plan, which I guess we're pretty lucky actually.
Inflation, yes.
Yeah, so that cap plan is really looking at our distribution system, and then it's undergrounding a lot of stuff as well. I forgot to mention that, which is really focused on reliability reasons for that. It's one of those things where, and you can see that in the audit as well. The electric utility in the same boat as the water utility, which was we were paying off a lot of debt, and what that means is we've fully depreciated our assets, and it's time to start the cycle all over again. So we're in that phase of where we're finishing off old debt, and we're now going through and replacing everything that the last generation or last two generations did, so that we can just build for the future. That, like I mentioned, that cap plan was an estimated about $13 million or so. We obviously don't have that much on our own, so that's where the bonding issues came in. We then worked with DGR on a 10-year rate study to find out how we would pay for that. And the anticipation is that phase one and phase two would be bonded, and then phase three would be paid for in cash. So we're still continuing to work towards that. Obviously, as we get to phase three, we'll have to see where those numbers come in at, but that's still the plan as of right now. So we went out and issued the debt for phase one, and we've been using up that money as Jeremy and his crew have been upgrading the system. We're going to start design work in phase two, but that means we do need to start talking about financing for phase two. So again, this is more just to help you two get up to speed on this, so you're comfortable with where we're going, and let us know if you have any questions. But with that, I'll hand it over to George, and he can talk about the bonding side of it.
Yes, thank you, Keith. So very good overview there. And we thought that was a good agenda item for today because, phase one is undergoing. You're working with your engineer on prepping for phase two. And as Keith indicated, phase two is late this winter, early spring. kind of that timeline in terms of when financing may be necessary. And so it's good that we're talking about financing today because, this would be different from the financing that we're talking about, of course, with the city. That's water project that can be a combined effort or issued with the city's assistance there. On the electric side, this is where your utility has the authority through Minnesota statutes to issue your own debt. And so in 2023, you did that for phase one of your capital improvement plan. $6.5 million bond was issued in 2023. So we did a 20-year financing term. So kind of working in conjunction with the utility, with DGR and Northland Securities on getting that financing structured. And the same process we would work with going forward into phase two. As Keith indicated, the $1 million on phase one that you're short, not short, but costs are that much less. We would work that into the equation when we look at phase two. And so we don't do the financing for the second phase until we've got a good firm handle on the project costs. So working with DGR on your distribution improvement costs, the underground distribution, et cetera. So those are things that the estimates at the time that the CIP was put together was a $5.6 million financing need. Again, that's something that we'll work towards later this year, early next year. So now as part of the 2023 bond, we worked with, as a step back here, in Minnesota, there's two firms that municipalities use to rate bond issues. There's Standard & Poor's and Moody's Investor Service. And so we worked with Moody's Investor Service on the assignment of a bond rating for the utility. So this is really just on looking at revenue debt issued through the utility. And you were assigned a rating of A3, which actually anything in the A category is a very strong credit for electric or public utility providers. And so that was a very good step for the utility. It's based upon, they look at a lot of factors. Who are your customers? Where are you geographically situated? What policies do you have? How much cash on hand? They look at all these things. It's really your ability to pay your debt is what they're rating. And so you were assigned an A3 rating. And I would imagine that rating, we have to go through the process again, but that rating would likely be assigned to your next series of debt as well. So, and again, that helps to drive down the interest rates. It actually helped you, in addition to that, to secure what's called bond insurance. So bond insurance there's a back pre-meltdown on Wall Street, there was numerous firms that rated bonds, or rather insured bonds. And now there's two that are left. And what they do is guarantee to a purchaser of your debt that you'll make your payments. So it's ensuring, kind of like auto insurance or homeowners insurance, you can get the same thing for your bonds. And so they're rated AA. So what we did on the 2023 bonds is you get your A3 rating assigned and get it upgraded to AA through that insurance. And so we always have to look at what's the economics of that. How much of a premium do you have to pay versus how much interest cost benefit? And so I know we're kind of going into a little bit of the weeds here in terms of public finance, but those are things that you secured on the 23 bonds. It helped to make that a much more marketable financing, and it helped to drive the interest rates lower as well. So I anticipate that you'll be looking at similar enhancements to the 2025 or 26 bonds whenever they occur. So questions on anything?
For you guys, what are we gaining by doing this? Do we get more efficiency? We get extended life on equipment?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the electric department, a lot of the lines, we needed to do something with them. And, the underground, like Keith had said, is a lot less affected by the weather and stuff. I mean, there's pros and cons to doing it overhead or underground. By switching the voltage from the older voltage, it actually drives down our amp drive line, so we get more capacity out of our lines, because when volts go up, amps go down. So if you're at 99 amps on a line and you triple the voltage, those amps will go right down to 33. So all the wires are able to carry more, so there's more capacity for future growth and that kind of stuff on the lines as well. And we're varying services and just, we got another feed. We did the east end of town. We put a second feed out there where they were kind of on a little island. You know, it's just that one that cuts across the river there in the park, the overhead line, that's always flooded out. We put one on the north side of the highway, so, you know, if one of them goes bad, the other one's there to back it up and get them back on in a fairly timely manner until we can get the other one fixed or get something else done, so.
And I would add to that is by going to higher voltage, you improve the efficiencies, you reduce your line losses.
Yeah.
So that helps us economically. We don't.
Just that and the newer transformers are more efficient. It helps power factor, you know, with that kind of stuff, you know, so if you got a business that's maybe not as efficient, we drive the volts up and stuff, it's not, I don't wanna say, I don't wanna oversell it, but it does help. And so that helps drive our costs down from simple, right? Yeah.
A lot of those poles were at the end of their life, so we would have had to replace those poles anyway.
Yeah.
By undergrounding obviously protects us from storm damage, so we actually expect our outage rates to go down. Because everything will just be underground, so you don't have to worry about trees and squirrels and things like that. The tie line increase, like I mentioned, right now we've got our southern transmission line coming in, and then we're tapped in the north end. If we lost the south transmission line, that's why we have generation here, so we can carry the town. Once that tie line is in and everything's on one voltage, so all transformers are working on the same voltage, because right now it's, like I said, it's a two-part system, and they don't interface very easily. Once the tie line's in and everything's on one voltage, if we lost the south transmission line, we just pull power from the north and we can still cover the entire town. We won't have to run generation to keep everybody going. And then the same for the substations. They're at the, I would say they're beyond their useful life, especially as a plant sub. I don't.
Your sub two is already one of the transformers off of.
That's right.
There's two transformers at the north sub, and one of them has been off for most of the time I've been here, 21 years. It has a gassing problem, there's an insulation breakdown in there, so they shut it off. And they were kind of running both at the same time, and so we've been running just on the, I mean, it's plenty big for the load that's up there, I mean, there's no danger of that, but I think we're gonna upsize the transformer up there a little bit.
We're just gonna put in one.
Just
Yeah.
one,
And actually, I think the plan is all three substation transformers are gonna be the same size. So we're just gonna have a consistency, same with the SCADA and the switchgear and all that stuff. We're really looking at trying to just create one standard here.
because the north substation, there's a Ellis Chalmers and is it a GE?
I think so.
I think it's a G, one set of gear, I don't remember, but they're different, so if we gotta have two spare breakers for that, we're gonna try to. Make it so that all three substations run the same breakers, or the south sub, the power plant, and the north sub, so. We don't have to carry as many breakers, and I mean, the ones at the north sub were, when they were bought for that building, they were used when they got bought. So, I mean, those things are probably 70 years old, so 80 years old, so.
But I wanna say the plant sub, what's the date on that transformer? Is it like from the 1970s and that was a rewind?
I don't know, was that even that?
I don't know, but that's I mean, that's essentially what
used.
We're buying new stuff. We're buying new stuff.
Under
Yep.
this problem.
Yeah,
Alright.
well, all of the distribution transformers, like the ones that are sitting outside of your houses and stuff. Those aren't brand new, they're rebuilds, rewound, new tanks, new stuff from B&B. Because when we bid the project, we didn't get any bids from any transformer manufacturers because the lead time was like 2.5 years. So if we would have,
choice, but to go to rebuild.
well, and they were 3 times as much, and we've been buying used transform.
I think we've always.
Rebuilds, they take all the guts out of it, they fix it, they basically rebuild it. We've been buying them since, well, forever, and we haven't had. I mean, you run a risk, you get a few here and there, you get one that leaks a little bit or whatever, but for the most part, it's a 99.9% success rate on those, and they're significantly cheaper, so we saved a significant amount of money on the transformers alone. But I don't believe that's the plan for the substation transformers. There's a line that you draw where you want to make sure everything's brand new and stuff.
And I want to say, last I heard, substation transformer lead times are about 2.5 to 3 years.
Right.
So that's gonna be our biggest challenge in the project.
Line to get ordered.
Yeah. And with that, when you order a transformer, sometimes they ask for like 10% down. They get your name in the queue. Which, yeah,
But again, big investment, it's the efficiency and reliability, their return, and their returns. Right, probably hard to put $1 in cents, I think they're on that, but.
Safety too, right? I mean, they're in the whole range.
And we're gonna talk about generation a little bit later too, but we've got to tie it into this. So.
Well, here and the board, the item 3 Northland Securities Engagement Letter. That's, again, we're not issuing debt on phase 2 today, may not for 12 months or more. But when we start working with a municipality on a project, ours being a regulated industry like most these days, is we need to have a letter basically engaging our company to, work with you on financial performance, projections, et cetera. And so this is something that we did with the 23 bond. We also did with the North Water Tower reconditioning project. And so there's one in your packets as well relative to phase 2. Doesn't obligate you to work with our firm. It's just kind of engaging our firm to help you with getting the financing put together. So.
and then pending commission approval, what that means is George and I will then call Blair at DGR, who part of their contract is to work with our financial advisors to figure out the timing and start going through those calculations. So we would be able to start working on that if the commission approves.
Okay, so we need action on the engagement by them.
Staff is recommending that, acceptance of the engagement.
Any more to add in, or any more questions? Not, entertaining motion for the engagement button, Northland Security.
So. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you got the orders.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. You're very thorough. You do a big job. I get to hear you play for that. Okay, let's move on to the galvanized service line replacement.
Yes, Mr. Chair, memorandum 25-09 in your packets is a request from WSB for a fee adjustment to work on the galvanized service line replacement project. Through the course of that project, WSB did have to make some adjustments and some tasks required more time than originally anticipated. This is kind of a new project for everybody. I have mentioned this at a commission meeting in the past, but Scott really got us on the leading edge of this. I think we're the first town in Minnesota to be completely lead-free and take advantage of the state financing that was out there. And it was WSB's first project on doing a whole community-wide replacement as well. So we all learned a lot from it. There were some additional costs that were incurred. WSB is asking to increase the budget for that project in the amount of $17,030 to a total contract price of $137,119. Those costs are reimbursable through the existing grant, and our contract still remains at a time and material basis. We support WSB's request, and like I said, we would just add that on to the grant that we already have through the Department of Health. So we're asking for the contract fee to be increased to $137,119.
You are, like you said, you are comfortable with those costs being verified.
Yeah, I know their staff were out, and Scott can speak to it better than I can. We really didn't get any concerns from homeowners.
No, I think the big overage, I guess, on time where it kind of come back to was the on-site inspection was kind of one of the big parts of that. Every house being in every situation on all 47 or 8 of them being different. There was need for an inspector there pretty much full time to help work the contractor work through them and solve problems as they went versus I think it was maybe anticipated that they were gonna be able to come spend an hour a day there or something where it turned into be where there were so many variables that it was and then it was kind of the time frame to do the inspections. They were hoping to come into the afternoon and do 2 or 3 inspections and it just didn't work out kind of the way that it maybe was originally envisioned, that it was kind of the way they stepped them in was the street part got inspected once they got to the curb stops and they were backfilling and then it was into the basement and some of the basement portions were taking a half a day, some were taking 2 hours, some were taking a day. Then they were moving on to the next part, so there was they were kind of scattered a little bit more. The project went really good, but it was kind of one of them, I mean, that maybe caught them unexpected of how intensive that was gonna be and how they were gonna play out and do that inspection process.
Still a couple factors. The leaders are just one thing, probably gonna be a project that that's gonna be a lot of time down, variable to get. But look like we're pretty fortunate there for covered dates.
That background helps, thank you. That makes sense, thank you.
Exactly.
Yes, please.
I make the motion to approve the extra that quantity or.
Increase.
Increase of the budget.
Second.
We have motion second. There are no further questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Okay, your review, Mr. Keith.
Yes, Mr. Chair,
About 20 pages.
yes, I read every word for you. No, I'm joking. As the chair knows, this, I always think it's a good idea for us to reflect on what we accomplished in the prior year. So since I came on board, we've been issuing a year in review just so that we can realize how much work the commission has done, how much work staff have done, how much of an improvement we've made to the community and to our ratepayers. So it is a long document. I tried to hit the highlights without getting into too much minutia, but the details are important in a lot of cases. So the year in review starts off by looking at the commission, going through what the commission did in each month, acknowledging the orders and resolutions and the activity and the direction that the commission has given to the utility. So all that's there for you to read. It gives you a good, I think, background over the last 12 months or of 2024 for what came through the commission's docket. Beyond that, we go through the different departments, different sectors of our utility to talk about the activities that water did. So for example, you can see in there that water installed a mixer in the South Tower. We did get the we didn't get the grant from MPCA for the PFAS work that we're doing. Worked on the full water main replacement for 7. On electric, you have the reliability results. We won APPA's reliability award, made progress on the CAT project. In the power plant, We work with the community and we're part of their History of Princeton Day tour for the chamber. Working on getting our air permit renewal, which we got. I actually got a follow-up email today that says that it's all been approved and it's on its way. So that was a long process that staff spearheaded. Conducting roof inspections on the administrative side. We hired a billing clerk and a journey line worker group last year. Working at reviewing property liability insurance, worker comp policies, continued our social media presence, attending various trainings and webinars for staff. Accounting and finance, I always like to point this out because sometimes it's easy to forget all the things that accounting has to do each month with paying invoices and payroll and monitoring our investments and inventory and balancing books. And I think everybody here knows all that work stuff, but sometimes it's a good reminder to see what's there. As well as billing and rates. Again, reminding folks that our billing clerk processes just shy of 3,000 bills each month that go out on a very regular basis. So they keep busy there. We're processing approximately 360 customer applications each year. Again, a lot of these are just move in, move out for rental properties, but each one of those has to be processed. So our staff stay on top of that. Really working at doing our outreach to the community through bill inserts and our connector, celebrating Public Power Week. We fielded, as another example, an average of 21 phone calls per day goes through our office. So that's just shy of 5,500 calls for the year. We're working on a new scholarship program, which the commission approved just recently. Working with the school district program on that. On the IT side, again, just setting up the AV needs for our commission meetings, maintaining prudent cybersecurity protection, adding GIS equipment, working on CAT plans. On the legal and regulatory side, again, we have so many different state and federal reports that we have to issue each year with the Department of Energy and Pollution Control Agency, Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, and the DNR, and all the alphabet soup of regulators. But, publishing our drinking water report and last year we held a public hearing for our wellhead protection plan update as well. And then on the safety side, again, that's really important to us. We relaunched our safety committee, established bylaws. We audited our safety data sheet database. We won the safety award for last year as well. Last year we won it for 2023. And again, we have our monthly safety trainings with Safe Assurance too. A lot of field stuff, but also doing our workplace safety issues and employee right to know, things like that. We also continue to maintain our random drug testing for all staff at CDLs, and then meeting our annual requirement through the Motor Carrier Safety Clearinghouse on that reporting. Engagement, again, we're a community asset, so it's important that we work with the community and our industry on providing the best services we can. We meet with the city annually on our wellhead protection efforts, and they're kept up to date on that. We work with the city staff on numerous development project proposals. We just had an engineering meeting this morning, just showing how the two entities are working together. I actually participated in the interview process for the city's new fire chief, so I was happy to help out there. And we joined with the city on celebrating Public Safety Day on September 7th. We continue to be involved in our industry with MMUA. I serve on the MMUA board. I've also been a member of the joint MMUA MREA, which is the co-ops. We have a work group so that we can work together and go to the legislature as a unified voice for public power entities. Jeremy and his crew will attend the MMUA T&O conference each year. I participate in MMUA's weekly government relations committee meetings during session. And then we get a whole bunch of surveys, whether it's a salary survey or governance survey through MMUA that we participate in and help our colleagues. For SIMPA, I serve on the SIMPA audit committee, and I also attend their monthly meetings. We work with them on some of our regulatory reporting and some budget reporting for them as well. They have a budget and race workshop every September that I go to, and then I was part of a work group to update their quick start generation contracts, the end of last year and beginning of this year. And then their big annual meeting I go to each year as well. For APPA, we were fortunate to be highlighted in their magazine last year under the article Protecting Public Power, Keeping Your Community on Your Side. So it was nice to get some national recognition for the work that we're doing. And then on the water side, we work with Minnesota Rural Water Association and AWWA. We attending their conferences. That's Scott and his staff that handle most of that. State of Minnesota, we actually had a sales tax audit last year, so worked with the Department of Revenue on that, and that went through smoothly. And then even locally, I've attended the service award dinners for the Princeton ambassadors. Staff have participated in the Rum River Festival and Mini Dazzle parades. We've been at Pumpkin Junkin and been really involved in the Chamber of Commerce as well. We've also had tours with the Chamber. We've participated in October Manufacturing Month. The Chamber's Lunch and Learns we attend as we can. On the energy efficiency side, we continue to promote those rebate programs doing, we call them the big check pictures, just highlighting the support we've done to the community. And last year was with Rum River Automotive, Brainchild, Trinity Lutheran, and Rum River Residential. I also report on the energy efficiency results. This is always a year behind because just of the reporting that doesn't go in until June, so I don't have final 2024 numbers yet. But as you can see, our energy savings is at 3% of sales, which our state requirement is 1.5. Our low income expenditures are above the state requirement, and our total spending is we've issued for last year, or I'm sorry, for 2023, we issued a total of, well, it's a total spending, $223,000 and issued 5,900 rebates. Now that's a rebate. So somebody might get a rebate for a refrigerator and a clothes washer and a dishwasher. That's 3 rebates. So that's why the number's at 5,900. It's based on the equipment rebated, not the individual applications. Enterlight, which is an on our bill graphic to help people know where they are compared to their neighbors. We continue to get significant savings from that as well. And then, like I mentioned, Public Power Week, we celebrate, assisted with Light Up Princeton, and installed and removed holiday decorations to help make the city festive each holiday season. So I didn't read every word, but I think I do think it's important for us to really recognize the effort that staff put in to serve the community. So it's impressive.
So, we're kind of not cheap, I don't mean that literally, but, you know, people turn their lights on, you flush your toilet, they work. Who thinks about it, you know? Yeah. Of course, they'll let it pay their bill sometimes, but everybody's got a best, so. But one of the biggest things I learned is probably over the years I've been involved in. Despite what it says on Facebook, we're very competitive and more than we like with our service. So,
I appreciate the summer. Great work, everyone.
okay, anybody got more to add? Not, we'll go to the employee handbook.
Yes, Mr. Chair, in your package is memorandum 25-10. We did discuss at the last commission meeting the need for us to have an outside HR professional do a review of our handbook. I did reach out to several different organizations. Eventually, I kind of settled in on one, HR Works, and asked them for a formal proposal. They estimated that they could give us a review, confirm that our policies are safe and promote a respectful work environment, and then recommend changes based on current industry best practices and conduct a compliance review. Their proposal is to provide that work for an amount of $2,000, which I felt was reasonable. Until staff are making the recommendation to approve HR Works proposal in the amount of $2,000.
You know, pretty impressive. See, discrepancy like that, of course, one of the questions always comes to my mind, are we getting what we're paying for? But with your history here, Keith, I am very confident you did all the research. And if it's your recommendation, I would certainly.
Well, and as the chair knows, my wife is an HR consultant. She's not with HR Works, so, you know, we keep our stuff separate. But it does give me, you know, obviously I've through osmosis, I've learned a lot from her over the years, and I feel very confident that the proposal we have in front of us is what we need.
I make a motion to go with HR Works.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Hearing no more questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed, so that motion carries. Good kids. Another good one then. Mark the landmarker.
So, yes, Mr. Chair. So the next one is a generation and space feasibility discussion. And again, some of this is background. We've covered some of it in the discussion of the bonding, but I do think it's important for us to have a more higher level strategic discussion about where we're going with it. This utility was formed in 1911. And initially, we were at the end of a single transmission line coming up from Elk River. So back in the day, if a storm would come through, the town would be isolated. I mean, we could be out for power for days, weeks, depending on how long it took to get repaired. As a result, our forefathers installed generation because we were at such at the whims of weather and things like that, that the added reliability was important to provide our residents and our businesses consistent power so that they could run their lives. And that has been the mode that we have been in almost all of our existence. Since then, the metro keeps expanding, the grid keeps building up around us. We now have a north transmission line that we tap into. And the way that transmission line is designed and the way the substation is designed, that's actually considered 2 points of entry because you can pull power in from the east or from the west. So again, it's an engineering thing in the cap line. And then we have the south 69 kV line that supplies the south sub and the plant sub. So again, before we had one line coming in, one substation, and having local generation really added to that reliability. If you look at, especially larger municipalities, and especially if you look at munis that are in the metro area, not all of them have generation to cover their needs 100% of the year because they're so integrated with the grid and they have multiple points of contact. And a scenario in which your substations are intact, but the grid around you has collapsed to where local generation is important is very rare. So as we continue to, again, as the grid continues to grow and as we're making these investments in the cap plan, it does kind of change the calculus when it comes to generation. Generation before was installed for reliability purposes because if the grid went down, that's all we had. And in addition, there's been some changes in the wholesale side of things, where our generation is dispatchable by MISO. And in an extreme event, where the grid is collapsing, because of the contracts that we have, we're getting reimbursed by SIPA for the capacity payments. It is entirely possible that MISO would call on us to run and still require us to do rolling blackouts, which to me, what that says is, our customers are not getting the full benefit of having the local generation. It's being used for grid support. And again, it's just how the industry has evolved. It's how our infrastructure has evolved. So the commission has been talking for some time about generation. And my first priority when I came in here was to increase the distribution network so that if we did have a major event, we could backfeed the town from multiple directions. We get enhanced reliability that we don't have right now. And getting to that single voltage system is what puts the whole thing together. So that once all of that is in place, the generation here is really for grid support at that point. It's not the same, it does not have the same value locally that I would argue it has today or 20 years ago. It was vitally important back then. So then the question becomes, if we're going to add generation, under what conditions do we do that? Before, the utility was more than happy to invest in generation because of those reliability benefits. And so they spent money, they used ratepayer money to have generation here. Now that, as we're building up the reliability around us, to me, there is a question as to whether that's still a valid financial strategy. I've been looking at it more as, now the generation isn't here for reliability, it's an asset. It's a revenue stream. If we can build and operate generation, sell that capacity on the market, make a little bit more than what it costs us for do, we can use that to hedge rates and keep rates lower. That would be a benefit that I can see locally to do it. If the cost of installing generation is more than what we anticipate the capacity payments to be, I'm not sure it's worth, I'm not sure the value is there. Just have local generation here. When in an extreme scenario, that generation is going to be used to help customers in Connexus's territory, East Central's territory. I really struggle with why our ratepayers should be subsidizing other ratepayers at that point. So that's kind of where we've been at the moment. We're continuing to work under the scenario that if we add generation, we're going to do it from Main Street. We're going to use that because we think, as a business, we think we can make money at it, and then all those profits would go into keeping up, we would actually be able to reduce our rates. If we can do that, then it's a reasonable investment. If we can't do that, we're not sure that we want to increase rates just to have another generator. So to put it into context, we have about 12 megawatts of diesel generation right now. Our summer peak, which we hit a couple of years ago, was just over 14. So we can supply the town for about, I want to say like 98% of the year. I have a graph in my office that shows that. So except for that super hot day where everybody's air conditioner's on, we can still cover the town anyway. It's just how much is it worth to get that extra hour of coverage from a reliability standpoint. So again, we've been working under the general consensus, and Jack, please jump in if you feel I'm saying anything.
I've got some thought, but
Yeah, the general consensus from the commission has been, if we can make money and hedge rates, great, but we're not going to increase rates just to have a generator here that we're not guaranteed to be able to use for our local needs, should the event arise. So that was the concern. So to that end, well, actually there, I'll let you jump in if you have some thoughts or questions before I get into the next page.
well, go back to Tom. There's no question with the cap ban. This is not the biggest advantage of doing it, but it's certainly a big part of it. We'll have enough outside reliable generation where we will be falling back on ours, like either when we have an impact. And the other part of it, well, previous commissioner, who we all know very well, with neighbors, because how do you say it? We're not going to spend money just to subsidize somebody else. He had a different way of saying it, but it was damn. We should know we don't have one. And that it was a very common sense comment. And why should we subsidize the grid? And the payback comes in our contract with SIPA because they do cover our costs, but then we're obligated to them too. So where is that line Where to draw that line, I guess, with that kind of bottom line. or-
Well, and I guess the other thing I should add to it is what makes it a little challenging for us is under MISO rules, we can only install a little bit over what our actual load is. Before we have to get it into a lot more complicated interconnection and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot more.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, so at most, we could put in 2 generators right now. Whereas somebody else like a SIPA could build like another Fairmont Energy Station or Wakata Energy Station and put in 6 and get the economies of scale for that. So if they can do it cheaper and it helps keep the overall SIPA rate lower, then I'm kind of like, let SIPA do that. The only reason to do it here is either for reliability purposes, which I think the cabin might takes care of, or we use it to hedge rates. That's why we've been focusing more on financial analysis on the generation side. Okay. Well, if that makes sense, I'll keep going. We did,
Don't mean to interrupt.
No. I'm sure you would love, enthralled with my ramblings on power generation.
We had this conversation last week. You and I.
Yeah. So we've gone down 2 paths. One is looking at new generation. And the most recent conversations I had with DGR is if we installed brand new generators, we cannot do it for what the current capacity is. We're going to have to pick in on. It's that there's just, they could not come up with a scenario where we could make money by installing new. So, given the previous conversation with the commission, I instructed DGR to take a pause on that. The other reason we haven't stopped all conversations with generation is because, I don't know, a couple months ago, I got a phone call from our colleague, our friends and colleagues down in Elk River, who are disbanding their power plant and was wondering if we want 2 of their old units. Obviously, the economics are different for used generators. One's a Cooper Bessemer and one's a Worthington.
Correct.
So big iron, just very steady engines. We're impressed with the maintenance they've kept on them. They look like really decent engines. We could try to relocate those up here. That seems promising. We're gonna work through some more things with DGR on that. There's a risk. It's used equipment. Obviously, if we bought new equipment, there'd be a warranty and things like that. And with used equipment, there's nothing. But you know, a lot of those old engines are running for 50, 70 years. We have every confidence it would continue. Again, there's a bit of a risk there.
You have the space for them?
Well, that's into the space feasibility study that.
And space feasibility.
Yes, the location.
I want the, yeah.
Location gets to be a big issue. So we are continuing conversations on the old ones. The prior commission was comfortable with us continuing talks of looking at a used unit that would not be under warranty. So we continue down that path until full differently. But yes, then the question comes up. Where are you gonna put all this? We looked at a couple of different options, and the best option that we've been able to come up with is right here at the back end of the power plant. When we rebuild the plant substation, we can make that bigger, but we would add in, we would actually, we're not quite sure the footprint. We do have some more conversations, but the current concept plan would be it's in that back parking lot. We may have to demo one of the garages in order to fit it in. But then we could also put in, say, 3 bays. We know we're only populating 2, so if we ever decide to grow in the future, it's just a matter of dropping in 1 more. But again, none of that's been decided. So that's something that we can continue to explore and see what we come up with. You know, provided the commission's in agreement on that, which does bring us to the space feasibility issues. We're already busting at the seams. I invite all you guys to come at like 3:30 and see the Jenga system that these guys have to do to get us all the equipment that we can inside, and we still have stuff that's in the south side. We are in need of doing something different. Fortunately, at the same time, the city is also trying to think about its space feasibility needs. For those that know, the current city hall is actually school property that the city rents. And as they're growing, there might be some synergy there. So, we had gotten a proposal last year, 2 years ago, from ISG to do a space feasibility analysis. We feel that we need one. We got busy with some other things, and I got tabled for a little bit. But Michelle and I are gonna work on an RFP. It was included in the budget, for this year to do a space feasibility study. To try to bring some people in here and try to look at workflows and things like that and figure out what we need. It's a bit of a bigger question mark because we know that this, in terms of like the garages and the field space, it's going to be different because in a few years, we'll have almost everything underground, so we probably don't need 2 bucket truck. I mean, Jeremy can speak better to this than I can, but your equipment needs are probably gonna change a little bit.
Yeah, obviously it'll go from an overhead equipment to an underground system. Now, that may mean a drill rig and a trailer and a tank system for the bentonite or bigger cable plows or something like that. So we're just switching out overhead equipment for underground equipment.
And so,
What's the space comparison there? The overhead, I'm assuming takes a little bit more space or not?
Well, we have 3 bucket trucks now. We would be able to go down to 2 for sure. We'd be able to get rid of the 1 and maybe just the 1 bucket truck. You know, I mean, it's
Some
street lights,
Yeah.
street lights, decorations, that kind of stuff, you know, and I mean, the 5 is, I mean, they don't hardly have any hours on them. And I think when we had looked at getting rid of 6 like 10 years ago, I think they were gonna give us like 18 grand for it. Well, I know it costs money to keep it, but it's,
It's why.
yeah, you know, I mean,
Cheaper to keep it then.
well, but that's just it. And we, you know, if we only use it, 6, 8 times, a couple times a month. Does it pay to get rid of it? These are all questions we have to answer, but
When are most of the overhead lines gone?
it'll be at the end of this cap plan.
yeah, so.
I mean, we might have they're not, we don't know exactly if we're gonna get to 100%.
Yeah.
There's still gonna be some tie line possibly between the power plant and the south sub. There's some underbuild on the transmission line on the north. Coming from the north sub that goes each direction, crosses over Rum River Drive over to where the old sales barn is for the folks that have been around.
That makes sense.
You know, we're right there. They may or may not go underground.
Okay.
You know, that's all part of this phase 2 planning session to see if we can work it in. I don't think originally they were gonna do the tie line or the underbuild. But now with some of the different community projects that are coming up and some of this other stuff, they're thinking that it might be easier and cheaper or more efficient to do an underground system where then it could go away, but it,
A lot of QPDs here.
yes, but yeah, it's basically gonna be switching out bucket trucks for, underground equipment.
And then underground, the underground equipment is probably actually gonna be more space consuming to a point,
Okay.
just by the kind of the type of equipment that it'll be and size it is.
Yeah,
So, we have lots of questions.
What land do we own?
Just what's here, the office and the field garages, the South Ridge lot, the treatment plants and the water towers and substations.
Was there any are any of those other substation and they're not like expansive locations where you could use it right now?
So,
They're all
I mean-
tight for the need, right?
Yeah. In theory, I think we could put a garage on the south storage lot. But we may be looking at buying some land. And that's kind of why we wanted to do the space feasibility, so we wanted somebody to help us kind of think. through.
we used to store some of the trailers and stuff at the south sub. But then we started running into for the oil spill protections,
Oh,
You know,
Containment stuff on there,
That's
so
a big
a bunch of room.
spill containment
Around
and
transformers.
we were storing transformers down there and they kind of not frowned upon, but they're like, no, this is designed for the substation transformers, not the 100 other transformers you got sitting down here, so.
And then kind of the whole thing is everything's kind of, we're, I don't know, the right time, I guess, or a bad time or whatever is the new substation's gonna have a bigger footprint. We're out of room for equipment storage, the generation stuff. So we're kind of, all these projects are all kind of coming somewhat at once, but yet we're not gonna build one piece and then the next week and then all of a sudden say, oh, we're out of room for here, but we just built this brand new
Yeah,
thing here. We're trying to look at it as a huge big picture of the needs for kind of everything rolled into one. So we don't.
we do feel we need to take a holistic approach to this problem. That is impacting so many different areas at once.
you know, it's like the bag's only 5 pounds. Well, and it is, you know, and that's gonna be the thing is what are we gonna try to get in that bag? And so,
Well, to look at, as we go as far with the city connection, there would be the administrative space. If the city would build a new city hall, would we keep our separation, but we would be in the same, let's say the city built a new city hall at the same public safety area. We could maybe share, it would free this space up here at the downside court, whatever, but just free up some footprint. Whether it be enough to gain, they don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We do wanna, yes, we do wanna maintain our independence. If we did something jointly, you know, our desire is to have our own entry point and they're kind of like a twin home kind of thing where one side's the city, one side's us, or, you know, call it a government center instead of a city hall where you can come in and do some stuff. If that makes sense.
That's just something, one of many possibilities.
Well,
You see Battle
Huh?
I see Battle Lock on construction projects.
Yeah, man.
There's a lot.
One of the things we're running into is, you know, some of these garages are old. I know you guys are fighting water intrusion lots of times. We do have in the budget and we started some work on it to do some tuck pointing in the front office building, which may be more than what you thought. We'll see what the proposal comes back as, and when we do, we'll share that with the commission. So again, it gets to one of those things where how much money do you keep sinking into these older buildings that have also been at the end of their life? Or is it better to maybe try to find an old building and retrofit it, or are you better off just starting with a bare piece of ground? Those are the kind of questions we kind of want to kind of explore internally and see what makes sense.
The front shop, I guess the stucco down there, that building's in really good shape. That's kind of, for the most part, had a rehab quite a few years ago now. Like the potato warehouse has a new roof on it, but I mean, the rest of it's old, but it's there. The other garage beside that potato warehouse, kind of between the sub there, that's probably the newest building we got, which might have to go away for substation footprint. And the back half is probably our worst building. I think that building and the north addition kind of inside the courtyard there. It's kind of getting to the point where there's not enough to screw to fix stuff. It's getting to that, it's been rehabbed and refurbished and re-tinned, I think, a time or two, but it's old poles for the pole barn. For brand, you know, so I mean, we're kind of at that point of we keep fixing or do we start new with something fresher.
Where would a better position be? South end, north end, east side, west side?
I don't know that it matters.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter. I don't know. But still, we have, you know, so you don't have to put in the middle a bunch of houses.
Yeah. I mean, the power plant's done, that's gonna stay. I think from an administrative standpoint, obviously having your bill payment center downtown is always a nice thing to have. But that being said, you know, the public safety building right out here, and if we had, you know, all the local government resources kind of in the same area, that could have some benefits.
and a lot of these towns are building these. Some of them are, St. Francis just built the new city hall. That's like right downtown St. Francis, like right behind this, the middle, whatever school's on the reset in there.
Middle school.
But like Elk River, the Elk River Utilities, their field office, I think, is where they were always located by the river, but their offices are in, I think, the city building, and that's out on like the southwest edge of town. So
Yeah.
some towns are,
On the way up to the golf course, that road that goes out.
yeah, and some of these cities are just running into problems where there's just no room in town anymore. So they gotta go to the outskirts of town to do it.
And we looked at, maybe the same, we've been kicking this around for a while. Is, we build a new building on the self-storage lot and then take down what's bad in this part and what we need for room in the current area. And put our facility on the south building one, move the storage and if the generation plant would expand up into this one. We could, there's maybe a option of still staying in this footprint,
Just flopping them.
kind of switching around and using, try to maybe seeing what, cost prohibitive or whatever to keep some existing building for cold storages or extra. We've kind of been kicking different ideas around through the last couple of 30 years here now of.
Again, that's for an architect.
Yeah, that's where we came to the feasibility study of,
Yep.
there's so many options and.
And that's already in the budget, right?
Yes.
And where is it in process?
Michelle and I were gonna start meeting on Friday to put an RFP.
Okay, there you go, that's right, okay, perfect.
Lots of people.
I don't think going in the potato warehouse, I mean, that's gonna be 100 years old.
And it's good storage. I mean, it's still serves a purpose. I guess that's kind of where you get to is do you just wipe the slate clean and take everything out and just build a new shop and go from there? Does it work better? Or that was where we kept running into that.
Retrofitting's really tough. I mean, the school district dealt with that. With the middle school and the elementary school and retrofitting stuff.
Yeah.
It's almost always more efficient to build every school.
It's not like you didn't bring this up, I thought just occurred to me that the bus garage area is gonna be vacant pretty soon.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if that's something to, that space to look at.
Mhm.
Is that city owned? Is that what's on the river?
No,
That's private.
Or this bus barn?
yeah, but it's down one, I mean, it's tear down.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no that buildings.
Good decent location for sure.
Little touch on the Elk River units. We've went down there a couple different times. They're gonna send up a bunch of maintenance records. We were able to actually to find the original installation prints. That would hopefully maybe, if it did continue to move forward, we could have that information there. We've contacted a couple companies out there that are moving them engines around all the time. Would be interested in. It's not an out of the question project for them, and to bring them up to date for emissions and all that kind of stuff is there. And I think we've kind of kept looking at it as more the economic side of the possibility of them getting done at a significantly less price than the new stuff.
Line on, Elk River?
Kind of, sort of. They're keeping the building, but they're turning into a training center, so they don't have, I mean, it doesn't need to be out tomorrow, but, they'd like it out in the next year or two. I have a phone call in to hopefully meet with them in the next few days, just to kind of firm that up a little bit more.
Are we the only customer they have?
No, there's actually a lot of guys looking at them more for parts side of it.
Yeah,
There's a pretty big demand for that side
There's
of
a
it.
little bit of, that's on that. isn't it?
yeah, it could be one of those things where we get in a situation where we're like, okay, let's haul them up here and just
Tarp them.
tarp them.
I mean, we just about the tarping.
Gonna be my next question. Even if we were ready to have a facility and we do decide we should go that route, could we buy them and find a place to,
We think so.
not my bad.
Set all the blue trucks outside.
Yeah, and I think their reasoning for getting rid of them is their wholesale contract.
Yeah.
Doesn't afford them the opportunity to get the capacity payment, I believe.
SIPA just has a really good, it's called quick start contract for their members, because they want to.
And that would be the driver, I think, about even doing it with it.
Huh?
That would be the driver of us even doing it properly.
Correct. Elk River, since they're not a SIPA member, they don't have access to that.
So are you looking for a motion from us to keep going forward this way?
No.
Or is this just back?
Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, this is just back.
This is helpful, I mean,
Yeah, it's to let you know the direction we're going, the kind of like the underlying assumptions for what's driving our thinking. And if you hear anything in there that you're like, well, wait a second, we're comfortable with that, let us know. I mean, we want to keep the dialogue going, with the commission. But this is board, this is just background.
Well, I guess the bottom line would be that I think we should keep it on the table, but be specific to the big units in Elk River. I don't think we want to go down the road of new within a year.
Well, I've already told VGR to just suspend any work on the new side because I'm looking at it from a cash flow perspective. Again, if you two came in and said, no, my top priority is to make sure we can cover the entire town by ourselves. That independence is important to you. Okay, then I need to know.
Well, with these two generators, they still be able to.
We would be able to, right? But we're,
98, all but 2% of the time.
With the new stuff we'd have extra capacity at that point. We'd be over, we would actually possibly wouldn't be able to put one in. One of them would almost be. We were kind of looking at it as,
But said idle
yes,
98% of the time, the other one.
Mhm. when,
Yeah.
you know,
And we don't
Call
load
upon.
these up to 100%.
Right.
Either. I think what's the one, 6 runs at what, like 80%?
the general runs, we run them at 80, we do urge test at 100.
What's the newest one again? What number is that?
7.
7 is the.
Seven. Are these units on Elk River, are they closer to 6, 7? Or are assuming there's some, or what are they comparable?
To unit 6, I would say, actually a little newer than that, they're 1971, 2 they were installed. New in Elk River, so they are old units. That was a conversation that we had with the DGR, was operators for the old units. But we already have a plant full of old units, so we're gonna have to keep,
Whether we have 4 or 6 or 8.
we're gonna have to keep operators for old units. The cat is essentially push button. You walk up, hit the button and it does its whole thing. The old units, they're manual.
Yeah.
So we're gonna need to retain operators for the old units already.
We have to replace one of them.
If we have an extra 1 or 2 here, we've already got the staff and,
Or we're gonna need to continue to have.
staff,
we're
yeah,
gonna have to train.
yeah.
Again, that's just kind of direction we're going, so unless you folks tell us something different, we're gonna continue down that.
What's the cost of the feasibility study? What's that in there? I can't tell you what that was in the budget line. By line. Cause that, what just what the budget, what numbers in the,
Oh, yeah, thanks, sir. I would say just,
generation space feasibility.
I'm gonna say space feasibility, something was somewhere in the $10,000 to $20,000 range.
That's not like ridiculous.
I think the generation is kind of a separate deal than the space. The generation's already been kind of in progress.
Correct, yeah, can't start even looking at budgets until the sun's. Correct. Cost impacts are gonna be.
Okay, well, that's,
Thanks for all those updates, that helps me to understand what's going on here better. Thank you.
Oh, our pleasure.
you want to do the cable monitor, the phone, joint meeting, that's just a
Oh,
keeping thing.
yeah, yes, so, we do a joint meeting with the city council every year. Michelle and I talked and suggested that, we thought Tuesday, June 3rd, at 4:30 in the council chambers would make sense. That's the same, basically the same time we did it last year.
City work session schedule. So it would just be the agenda item on that particular day would be our discussion panel.
And as of right now, I'm kind of planning for a big part of that to actually just be the conversation we just had, generation, space needs, things like that, ways that the commission and the council can work together. But I'm open to, we can put anything on the agenda that the commission wants, obviously. But if Tuesday, June 3rd works for everybody, I'd like to get a motion so I can get that on the calendar.
I'm out of town.
Okay, is there,
It works for me, but.
okay,
The day before work, I'm literally leaving on the 3rd, coming back with the rest of that week.
okay, so then, if we could just table this then until the next month. I'll send out, I'll get with Michelle and we'll send out a few options and see if we can. So, good. I would, it's really good to have everybody there, so I'd like to.
Well, maybe the kind of, not that short thing, but I don't want to have to go to July, which we'll on a different day in July with the fourth, I don't know.
The July one typically gets canceled because of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fourth of July.
Okay, yeah, I guess, yes, if we can table that, and then I'll get back in touch with all of you with some date.
The later time, 4:30 works. Nice, if you can keep that in mind.
We always like to do it during the city council's work sessions, which are always 4:30.
Okay.
It's normally on Thursdays, it just happens to be with, Rum River Festival.
If it was that time sensitive, it's just, we want to get it done.
Yeah, but no, it's, yeah, good to know, thank you.
Hey, do the cable winder.
All right, this is an addendum to the agenda, so I did print out copies of,
Is this what you sent out?
yes,
We set this up separately.
yes. So, memo 25-11, regarding the, purchase of a cable winder. So currently with the CAP plan, our staff are basically hand rolling the single conductors, by hand. Which,
It's a lot of wire. That's just the single phase stuff. That's what the one phase and the one neutral. All of the three phase, is 4+ conductors.
I'm gonna I just presume, well, initially, I wasn't even sure if the contractor had taken things down or we were doing it, but then I heard we were doing it,
Yeah.
which is commendable. But I never gave it a thought that you didn't have a window winder.
actually, Jeremy, yeah, if you just want to take this,
Did you send out the pictures?
I did.
Yes.
No, it don't make sense.
I thought I had come up with the trailer mounted unit, but I called them and of course they were sold weeks ago and the website hasn't been updated. And we're having a real hard time. But the more we kind of talked about it and the more we thought about it, we thought maybe a skid loader mounted one would be better. We'd be easier to get into some of these tighter spaces, get it down in the ditch where the trailer unit one. We use these at my previous, when I worked at OK, which is now Brink. You don't take these things down in the ditch. They're too heavy, too cumbersome. You can get in, but you're not getting out. And so the skid loader one, be able to get it off the road, a little bit safer, a little bit more
And we have a skid steer.
correct, ease of use to get it in there, in some of these little bit tighter spots. So
Probably a smaller room. Right.
yeah, I mean, we could get the wooden spool adapter for this, so we could put it on the old spool that we were saving. But they had kind of said, a lot of people, we're recycling all this wire. So, I mean, the wire that we're taking down will easily pay for this. We just took the loading yesterday? Monday, Tuesday, whatever day it was, they took one.
Trailer had fell on the highway.
They took it down to Elk River and that was if not even, of probably a tenth of what we're actually gonna take down. They got $2,700 for it.
This is easy. This is also injury prevention, it seems like.
Well,
Right. You can go that rental rate.
and I was looking at renting one from OK. OK's, they've been bought out by, they're not brake constructors. Their corporate doesn't allow them to rent it off the stuff. I called United Rental Light. They're just really hard to rent and the rental on it would be half of what we got here.
And when you're done, you think we could probably get $6,000 back.
Our plan is to definitely try to sell it when we're done. I don't.
How long do you think we gotta have? 2
Hmm?
years?
Well, it'll be till the end of phase 3, till we got everything tore down, so. But,
Instant rental's not even feasible. I mean, it's a long time to rent.
well, and that's another part of this too, is as stuff comes and goes, we rent it for a month, okay. We go like heck with it and tear it down when we're in a month and then, okay, get it back, or so they had problems somewhere else. Having it, just use it when we need it.
It rains on the day you need it.
Right. Yeah,
I make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any more discussion? And I just would add to that, I mean, a idea for your young driver office. Maybe that's the thing, they could at least have in our stop anyway. So even after you're done with the pole again, we get ready. They got a pole line out of the ground, so we can rent that. There you go.
Well, is that
But that's not a question for now, but
insurance?
but we haven't looked at that dollars.
They may get used underground at some point too. For the pole.
Yeah, I mean, and at that point, maybe, yeah, we get the wooden reel attachment so we can put it on the reels that to.
Yeah.
Facilitate doing the underground or something, so yeah, oop, yeah.
We have more than a second to not right purpose, so. We're doing a typical one or?
I think this fall,
They should give us a budget too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just,
Up to the, okay, up to the budget.
the only thing that wasn't in the budget, in the quote price would be textile and license. Shipping and the unit itself was on there, it would be just tax. So that's why it's still available.
It's still available.
Yeah, they build them.
Oh,
So
okay.
they build them brand new, so it's like 3 weeks to 4 weeks we'd have it. So that's why the budget was $10,000, but the only thing that's not in the quote was tax.
Okay, and that's your motion and budget president. Yep. Approve the budget. Budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'm not gonna worry around on here.
Yeah. You guys will be very, very appreciative of this.
If they reviewed the thought that, if we didn't already have, such a thing, I guess.
And they do have other units that are like this that we found that were $15,000 to $20,000, so.
It literally give these things.
You make a big loop and you tie it up, tape it up, and then down you ditch, you throw it on the ground.
Is it, all right, workman's comp injury prevention, I mean, this is.
Well, they've been very responsible, but
Yeah.
we got that backhoe or a cab, or probably the wood cost or whatever.
we got a good deal.
Yeah, we, that whole thing coming in the
Yeah,
shape
where'd that
there.
come from?
Pennsylvania.
We don't cost bigger, there's got to be followed.
It's kind of a, we were looking on that particular piece, we were looking kind of for a unicorn, and they're not real popular around here. They're way more, you don't see a lot of tractor backhoes around other than the cities and utilities type of deal. So there's just not a lot around, and for what we were hoping to get with it, or the options we wanted, I guess that was,
Plumbing, the boom plumbing was one of them.
you know, to run the hammer and the quick connect, so we put forks on the front and the bucket on the front and the that kind of stuff there was the hard find.
Hey, anybody else got anything? Not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
No move.
Second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Right.
They're adjourned.